Hello and welcome to another episode of Bible FPL, a review of Game Week 3, a look ahead to Game Week 4. As you can see from the title, the free hit is very much active, which I'll come on to shortly. Firstly, a recap of the main team initially, and then we'll come on to the Bible team later with a short Bible talk. If you want to know more about how this series works, feel free to go back and watch episode 1. But in terms of the main team, in terms of the one I suppose I spend my most time thinking about, we got 53 points, and the standouts really were Mbeumo captaincy, which I stuck to my gut. I captained the lad, and he smashed it with 10 double to 20. Maximum bonus was really lovely. I brought in Bruno Fernandes for a hit for one of my injured players in the midfield. I think it was Palmer and Saka I shifted on. So it was really nice as well that the hit paid off for Fernandes in the last minute. Cunha was a bit of a shame with a 1 point injury. But I'm partly, well, there's a chance I keep hold of him basically, because United's fixture run. So with me free hitting, I free hit these United lads out in game week 4. This is part of the reason why I get rid of the Forest lads in a difficult fixture. I get rid of the United lads in a difficult fixture, and then I get the United lads back for Chelsea at home, Brentford away, and Sunderland at home, and then I'll probably be playing a wild card in game week 8 to then shift them off when the fixtures go bad. And it's not a bad fixture swing game week 8, and it's one to look at if I was you, if you haven't already. So that's kind of the plan. But it was an okay game week. Bowen was a really nice 9 pointer given he wiped my Forest clean sheets. It was like at least he kind of evened it out a little bit. Other than that, there wasn't loads to write home about. I think Adingra getting benched was a bit of a problem. I think in future game weeks, I probably can't hang my hat on him now. He was only really a short-term punt anyway, but the likes of Joshua King, thankfully, has been starting regularly, and he has some okay fixtures coming up. I think Leeds are like top of the fixture ticker, so if I can't play Dinger in game week 5, I could just play King instead, for example. So I've got options, thankfully, with this team. But yeah, the what most of you are probably tuning in for is a free hit draft. So let me show you what I have come up with. So in goal, we've got Allison, and then Dubravka as a backup. So Allison, it's basically I want three Liverpool, and for the structure of this team I put together to get some defensive coverage for Liverpool, Allison does the job nicely. Now into defence, so we got Gabriel. I feel like if you're on free hit this week, you have to have some Arsenal defender, maybe even double up. They're the most solid defensive team in the league by far. They've proven that in their first 3 games, and Gabriel, I still think is their most attacking defender from set pieces. I know he hasn't scored one for a while, but as we saw from previous seasons, he is just a weapon. They're always going to look to find him, and he's going to get some more goals this season. I'm sure of that. So I'm hoping he can get one against Forest. Rodon will be a backup. Anderson will be first bench from at home to Leeds. I quite like that as a pick for first bench. I think he's always got DEFCON potential. This chap, they could get a cleaner against Leeds. So he's there for that. Munoz, I think, has got to be a lock for you. Even if you're not on free hit, I think you need to look to transfer him in this week, really, because I think they've got reasonable fixtures now, Palace, at least overall. And this guy is so attacking. And Ismail Assar, is probably going to be injured by the sounds of things. So he may even play right wing in this game against Sunderland, which is outrageous. I'm probably going to vice captain him because of that. Because of Sar's injury, we're going to go Lacroix for Triple Palace instead of Sar, I think. Most likely he's got the DEFCON potential, a bit of aerial threat from set pieces, etc. That's why he's there. Now into the midfield. So I think this is looking juicy, this midfield. It's a little bit differential. You can see there's an Alanga and a Barnes there. It's quite aggressive. Wolves have been awful defensively this season. Barnes and Alanga were both benched in their last game against Leeds, which on one hand you could say is a concern. But on the other hand, I'd argue I just don't see Eddie Howe benching them 2 in a row. Alanga was one of their big money signings this summer, exciting player. Harvey Barnes is a good player for them. Gordon's still suspended. So I just think they'll give him the next game. He's a great finisher. I back him. And I don't know who to choose between. I'm like, let's just have both. And the Sarr injury has kind of freed up a spot for both. Semenyo's there because he's been playing unbelievable. Honestly, watch some of his highlights recently. The man is just incredible form. He doesn't always finish his dinner, but the amount of chance he's creating, he's going to get points this season. So he's in there against Brighton, the club I support. I back us to get a result, but I don't necessarily back us to keep a clean sheet. And I think there could be goals in this game. So I think Semenyo could do well against us. So yeah, we'll wait and see my prediction on that one. Gakpo's in there because I think he's just looking really good for Liverpool at the moment. He's pretty nailed on that left-hand side. Now Isak's signed. There's doubts over Ekitike and Isak's minutes. I'm fairly sure Ekitike will start the next one, but Isak will probably take minutes off him. I think more likely than Gakpo. And Gakpo, I was chatting to a friend earlier. He's kind of playing quite selfishly in terms of he wants the goals. He's clinical at the moment. He's cutting inside and proving threat. I just like the pick, and he's a good price. And he's probably a player I could see myself owning long term for Liverpool, to be honest, at that price point. And then Mo Salah, part of the free hit logic for me is I've gone without Salah and Haaland this season, which has overall done all right. I don't think they're quite justifying their price points. Haaland, you could argue, is just about if you've captained him every week. Salah, I don't think his. But for this Burnley away game, I was like, if I'm free hitting four, I can get away with still having Salah in the game that I'm probably most scared about at the start of the season. So I'll be captaining Salah. I'm not going to overthink it. And then up front, this is the front line. So João Pedro is just in too good a form at the moment to ignore. If Palmer's out injured, he may end up getting a pen. I know Enzo's took the last one, but I still think there's a conversation to be had. He's playing really well. It's a good fixture. I think I'm too scared not to own him with his ownership, and I'll probably have to look to transfer him in soon if he continues. Mateta at home, Sunderland. There's the attacking coverage for Palace. He's on pens. I think you have to have him this week if you're on free hit. And then Voltemada. Basically, I'm a man who likes exact funds in my team. This team is an exact fund team, and I also don't like benching headaches. And I feel like because there's a risk between whether he or Vissa starts their next game, for me, he just works nicely as a second bench for the way my brain works. Like I've got Anderson first bench, I'll have Voltemada second bench, and then Rodon as a 4.0 option. Wouldn't be the most terrible third bench away to Fulham, but it's a nice sort of, it does the job at third bench nonetheless for 4 mil. So that's the free hit team. I'd captain Salah, I'd vice captain Munoz, and I think it looks quite nice. And there's a nice balance of differentials in here. You've got the triple Liverpool, you've got the triple Palace. You've got some Newcastle sort of like differential threat. Like I said, you've got Semenyo covered who's on incredible form and a nicest, and I definitely think a nice enough fixture as I've discussed. You've got João Pedro who's on outrageous form with a nice enough fixture. You've got the Arsenal defensive coverage with some goal threat with Gabriel, and then you've also got the Liverpool clean sheet covered with Alisson. So I like this team a lot. I think if there's no injuries and things that happen over the international break, I think this is what I'll go with. So hopefully that's provided some interesting food for thought for you watching. In terms of the Bible FPL team, so those that have been following the series for a while, we've got a sort of another team that we've put together, basically that have names, whose players' names correlate with books/authors in the Bible. And these videos are all about giving you some fantasy football advice, some fantasy football content, but also bringing some meaning to these videos in relation to the Bible, in relation to some Christian content. As a Christian myself, God's changed my life, and I've somehow managed to merge the two ideas together. And the Bible team has done brilliantly yet again. So Petrovic got the cleaner, Cucurella got a lucky cleaner, Munoz got a great cleaner at Villa with Defcon, Tarkowski got Defcon, Caicedo got Defcon, Palhinha didn't deliver this week. Cunha captaincy was disappointing with the injury. I don't regret the captaincy choice, it was just a shame he got injured. Obviously Haaland would have been the safer bet in theory, but I wanted to go for it with that fixture that was in front of Cunha, and obviously Mbeumo and Bruno smashed it. So on another day, I think Cunha would have done too. Dewsbury with a 12 points was unbelievable for us. And then Bowen, Haaland, and Mateta all returned up front. So it's another good game week for the Bible FPL team. We're around 1 mil in the world, which is very good at this stage of the season. I'll come on to transfer plans and things in a minute as to what we'll be thinking for next week. So we've managed to roll the transfers as well in like consecutive weeks. I think we've got two or three transfers in the locker, which is very nice. Um, Before we do that, we'll do the most important part of the video, which is the Bible passage. So like I said, when players return in this game, I go to their namesake author in the Bible and I read a passage from that author/book of the Bible in relation to goal time. So it's a bit creative, I know, but that's the logic. Now we're going to go with a goal that Jean-Philippe Mateta scored in the 21st minute. Now Mateta represents a couple of options for us. We've got Jean for the Book of John or Books of John, and we've got Mateta for Matthew. And I'm actually going to look at a little bit of both John 21 and Matthew 21 in relation to 21st minute. And I'm going to keep it hopefully short and sweet for you guys, just a bit of encouragement and a bit of sort of interesting content, hopefully, about the Christian faith. So in John 21, this is just after Jesus rose from the dead. So the Bible talks about Jesus who died for our sins and rose from the dead on the third day to prove that he truly is the Son of God and has forgiven our sins, those of us that put our trust in him. And he appears to his disciples, and basically they're fishing, they've caught no fish, and Jesus tells them to put their net over to the other side of the boat. Now, because they've just obviously journeyed with Jesus and seen him do loads and loads of miracles already, he's a man they can trust. So they put their net over the other side, and they haul in an absolute load of fish. They get 153 fish in. The net doesn't even break. It's another incredible miracle that Jesus does. And it's just another one of many examples in the Bible that are recorded of Jesus doing miraculous thing. So, Jesus was a God of miracles. He was also a God of forgiveness a bit later on in this passage. So, Peter denies Jesus three times in the run up to his crucifixion. This is one of Jesus' best mates who denies him three times. And after Jesus is resurrected, he reinstates Peter, he forgives him, and he commissions him to be used for him. So Jesus has got a miracle, he's got a forgiveness. In Matthew 21, our other sort of linked option to the Mateta goal, we've got a passage here about where Jesus comes into Jerusalem on a donkey. It's a passage you may well have learnt about at school if you even if you don't follow the Christian faith. And actually, in this moment, as well as Jesus sort of showing how he's king and he's come to sort of save the world from their sins as the Son of God, he also fulfills a prophecy here. That hundreds of years was written about in the Old Testament that Jesus would one day come and he'd ride on a donkey as part of coming into the world and his life on earth. And this is one of over 300 Old Testament prophecies that Jesus fulfilled, right? So you could argue, and I completely hear a skeptic would say, well, anyone could just ride on a donkey and say, oh, yeah, I fulfilled that prophecy, hundreds of years ago. Granted. However, he also fulfilled other things that you can't physically even try and like manufacture, such as the place of his birth. You can't choose where you're born. His death and resurrection on a cross in Isaiah chapter 53, hundreds of years ago, it talks about exactly what Jesus went through with the crown of thorns and where he was pierced and his crucifixion. It describes the man who was crucified and all the ways that Jesus was and all he went through hundreds of years before Jesus actually went through this. And there's many, 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 many other prophecies that Jesus fulfilled in his life. So even that, if you're a skeptic about the Christian faith, there's a lot of evidence from the Old Testament that backs up that, Jesus did everything that it was said about that he was going to do. Um, and there's actually a lot of weight behind the Christian faith, a lot more than you might realize. So Jesus was a prophecy fulfiller, and even I think if you've even known a little bit about the Christian faith, I'd like to think you associate Jesus as a God who taught a lot of good things. He was a loving person. He was a gracious, forgiving person. Um, but he also was a righteous person. He was a man of justice, and later in this passage, there's a bit where Jesus is in the temple courts and he sees people dealing in the market, basically in kind of the church, of the day, and they were doing things that they weren't permitted to do in God's holy house. And Jesus was angry about it, and he turned over the tables and he said, "What are you doing? This is ridiculous." And he stood up for justice. He stood up for the right thing. So, you look through the Bible and you get a wonderful picture of Jesus' character. This was a wonderfully loving man, a gracious man that died for our sins, but he was also a righteous God. And as me as a Christian that puts my faith in God, it's comforting to know that I worship a God that He loves me, He forgives me, He's with me, He's helping me, but He's also just. He also stands up for what's wrong. He also hates injustice. And He's a perfectly well-rounded God. He's perfect in all of His ways, as the Bible talks about. And that's therefore when I praise God and I put my trust in Him, I can have full confidence that he's good and he's always going to do the right thing, even when I don't fully understand it. He's perfect in all of his ways, and one day, I'll be immersed in his presence in eternity, free from suffering. If you put your faith in Jesus today, you can know that God's with you in this life. You can have confidence that He's good, and He works everything together for good in your life, even the difficult things, and that one day you can be free from suffering with Him forever and ever. It's a wonderful promise. So yeah, I'll leave that part of the video there. I hope you found it encouraging. Any questions, please do comment, ask. I'd love to get back to you. Obviously, like and subscribe if you'd like to tune in for more videos and stuff. But yeah, as we come to the end of this video, let me just show you how the Bible team is looking for the next game week. So we're not going to play the free hit on this team. I think it's better set up than my main team, so to speak. And I think what we'll probably most likely do is we will transfer Cunha out, I think, and we'll probably bring in Cody Gakpo. Gakpo's middle name is actually Mateus, so he's another little Matthew option. So Mateus Cunha, Cody Mateus Gakpo. It works very nicely. We bring him in then for that Burnley game. I think we probably captain him for that fixture and see how he does. We'll probably vice captain maybe Haaland with that Man United fixture, possibly Mateta Munoz. There's a few options. We'll look at press conference info near the time. But I'll probably ring Mateta. And then if Frimpong is injured still for that Burnley game, we may well bring in Mark Gay, another Mark option for the book of Mark. And then we'd have sort of triple Palace. And I think for that Sunderland home fixture, that's a really nice fixture to target. Gay may have come in anyway if he transferred to Liverpool for that away to Burnley fixture. But yeah, home to Sunderland's also a very nice fixture. So we'll see what happens with Frimpong basically. And at some point we need to sort out our Book of Luke option. He wrote the Book of Luke and the Book of Acts for Lucas Perez because he's getting no minutes at the moment. So one person I looked at is Lukic for Fulham's played every one of their games, 90 minutes in each in the midfield. So he's not the most exciting pick, but he could be a bit of an enabler at some point. There's people like Lucas Bergvall, if they get more minutes, we could use Luca Digne if he pins down the left-hand spot at Villa. There's options like that. So that's something I'm also thinking about at some point to help get this team, covering all of the books in a way where they're actually all getting minutes. But overall, I'm kind of amazed at how well this team is doing, given, I'm limited in terms of the players I can pick. Okay, I've touched at straws a little bit with some of my links, the likes of Haaland, but there's all justifiable links to all the players I've put in. And yeah, obviously, like there's limited options, so I'm buzzing with how well this team's done. The likes of Polina and Casado that pulled in with goals last week that no one expected. Obviously, Dewsbury Hall this week, it's a fairly unexpected hero of 12 points. Yeah, I'd like to think God's maybe honouring the concept behind this series, and yeah, ultimately, I just I hope that he uses this, even these videos, to help some of you to find God and His love for you, and that even in the sort of ups and downs of FPL and the trivialness of it, you can find sort of true meaning in life, beyond, yeah, the likes of fantasy football, which I enjoy too. But God's the one that gives me true meaning and purpose in life and makes bad FPL game weeks a bit more bearable, knowing there's sort of bigger things in life basically than FPL. So yeah, I'll leave this video there before it's too long. But thanks so much for watching. Like I said, do like and subscribe if you'd like to tune in for more. Comment if you have any questions, etc. All that good stuff. But for now, yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the international break. Have a great game week 4. And yeah, I look forward to catching you on the next one.